Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, February 18th, 2021.
Make it all the way over there.
And we are calling to order today's Blueprint meeting. Thank you very much. We're coming to order. Let me read my little speech again. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today is Thursday, February 18, 2021. We're calling to order this meeting of the Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency Board of Directors. I want to welcome everyone joining us here in chambers and those participating virtually and watching us online. As a reminder, Leon County has a mask ordinance in place requiring that masks be worn while indoors. We ask that you comply and keep your mask on at all times during this meeting. Moving to the agenda, Mr. Pingree, are there any agenda modifications?
Yes, Madam Chair, just one. There was a request to pull from consent item number 3 for discussion. And I would also note that I believe Commissioner Jackson has requested the ability to participate telephonically.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, for Commissioner Jackson to be able to participate in voting.
Second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and second that Mr. Jackson will be able to participate via online. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. And consent agenda item.
Madam Chair, just for clarification here, and we all understand, and Commissioner Jackson understand, he cannot make a motion, he cannot second a motion.
Under our telephonic policy, Commissioner Jackson will not count towards a quorum, but he can vote.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Attorney, and thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Duly noted that we do have an item pulled from consent, item number 3. And so please note that. Next on the agenda is citizens to be heard.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to the clerk in a moment. I would note that all written comments that were submitted have been distributed already today. And we do, on behalf of your Place and Blueprint team, we do appreciate the clerk assisting in these meetings. So, Mr. Cook.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Pingree. I want to first clarify, I do have a speaker card for Karen Woodall, but that was for your earlier comments at the workshop, correct? Okay, thank you. All right, Madam Chair, we do have several speakers. I think we have 3 in person and then a number who have connected virtually. I'll take those in person first, assuming that's your preference. And each speaker will have 3 minutes for his or her comments, whether in person or connected via WebEx. Those who are in person, the microphone is catty-corner to me at the back of the room. There is a light that will be green here between me and the city manager on the dais. It'll turn yellow at 30 seconds and then red, but I'll also give you a verbal cue. With that, our first speaker is Dave Lang, speaking on item 3. So Dave Lang will be our first speaker, and if you'll give your name and address for the record, I'll start your time.
Sure, thank you. Dave Lang, I live at 6025 Roberts Road. And first, I want to thank each of you for your service to the community. I've been there, I know what it's like, and thank you so much. I don't think any of our speakers today are going to speak in favor of the parkway that's coming through. However, you know, it might come through, and we hope that you'll give us your careful consideration on our points that we bring through. But today, the taxpayers of Leon County and Tallahassee are on the verge of giving Weelaunee Plantation Development a huge gift by allowing them to reroute the parkway into the Centerville, Bradfordville, and Roberts Road intersection. Weelaunee is already getting many miles of roads as well as the interchange at the interstate, and all paid for by the taxpayer. The agreement made in 1999 between the school board, the city, the county, and the Centerville Rural Association does allow for a much-needed road through the conservation area. But we're losing land there that greatly benefits a huge landowner. So if the proposed project goes through, we'd like to see Wheeloney become a good neighbor and considerate citizen by donating at least even double the amount of land that is being taken from that conservation easement. Everyone concerned would be better served by adding this donated conservation area to the proposed sports park that is going to be located south of the school area. And this would ease the sting of losing some of the conservation easement under discussion and would greatly enhance the sports park, and the schools would have a much-needed second access road to ease their massive traffic problem they have. Now, in closing, I'd like to remind each of you that my wife and I are virtually the only private landowners greatly affected by this major change in the parkway routing through the Wheeloney property. And we know that our corner property must be taken for the roundabout that they're speaking of, but we hope that a design can be made to minimize further intrusion on our home and our farm. So thank you, folks, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Lang, and thank you for your service. Our next speaker.
Next speaker is Mary Alma Roberts Lang. She'll be followed by Stephen Suber.
Okay, I'm Mary Alma Roberts Lang, and I live at 6025 Roberts Road. And thank you for this opportunity to speak. My husband Dave and I are the owners of the historic Century Pioneer Farm located at the corner of Roberts and Centerville Roads. For the past 1.5 years, we've seen at least 10 possible Wheeloney Road designs that were drawn with no consideration to where they went on our farm, from running through our storage barn, a 100-year-old house, a pole barn, or just almost directly in front of our family home, to running 75 feet down our long western boundary that would take a total of 5 acres of our property. As members of the Blueprint Governmental Agency Board of Directors, you are all aware that there's adequate and available land in the existing conservation area for most of the road, and the right to do it is outlined in the conservation agreement that was negotiated and signed by the school board, city and county commissions, and the Centerville Rural Area Association when Roberts School was built in '99. We agree that a second exit is direly needed for the school, especially in unforeseen emergency situations. And we understand that we will have to give up our corner property at the crossroads of Centerville and Bradfordville Roberts to support the growth of the community. However, we strongly object to taking of more of our western boundary than is needed. The latest version, a little better, but still swings unnecessarily far east of our property line, and additionally takes 1/3 of our entire farm frontage along Roberts Road. A shorter access road can be built, much like the one from Centerville to the circle that is already on the plan. And a much shorter and smaller swing can be made on my western property line. There's a simple solution here. Since Wheeloney Plantation is getting a taxpayer-paid road of many miles for massive development, they can and should dedicate a new conservation area south of the schools of at least the amount of land used for this road, if not more. That would be fair, more accessible to the entire community, and would compensate for the loss of current conservation land for the road. Dave and I planned on a nice, peaceful, rural retirement, but the past 2 years have been spent very stressfully trying to get a sensible and fair plan for a road that can legally be built in the conservation area. We need an acceptable one before the commission decision date in April. Frankly, we are tired of dealing with more and more odd plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. Our next speaker.
Next is Stephen Suber. He's the last in-person speaker on this item, and the only other in-person speaker will follow will be Stanley Sims.
My name is Stephen Suber. My wife and I live on 13.5 acres on Centerville Road. Wheeloney Plantation We all know how much land Weelani has. Now they would like to cross Roberts Road, Bradfordville Road intersection, and come across and then go behind a church and a cemetery. This proposed plan for Weelani Boulevard extension involves our property. The plan, which I understand, is the preferred plan. It takes about 1.5 acres from us. We have in the past hired more bass to survey our property and divide it up into 4 3-acre lots. The zoning requires 3 acres per lot. The new road would cross the middle of one of these lots. The distance from the front of our existing house to Centerville Road is about 600 feet. The new road would cut the distance to 300 feet. The value of the house and the entire acreage would be reduced. Our retirement is depending upon the property being a major part of our retirement and would prevent a problem trying to sell now and in the future. All said, we would like to blueprint to consider another plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Stanley Sims on unagended.
Madam Chair, I just wanted the proud privilege is this, I forgot to recognize that this is Black History Month. And the way that we promote to get the shot in the arm, I like to promote I can't say her last name, Madam Chair, you know how I murder people's names up, but she's a Black female, 35 years old, and the lead scientist for discovering the cure. And so I just wanted to say that, and to also say, I stand with my good friend, Mr. David Lane. I'm a homeowner out in the Mickasicka community, and he's on the big side, and I'm on the little side, but he still treats me the same. Very good to see you, Mr. Lane, and thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Next speaker.
Madam Chair, our remaining speakers are connected virtually, so we will go to those speakers at this time. The first speaker will be Max Epstein, followed by Scott Hannes. They are both speaking on item 3 that you've already heard commented on. So Max Epstein, name and address, and you may begin.
Hi, Max Epstein, 1001 San Luis Road. I'd like to turn your attention to a January 2021 memo, a bilateral agreement between Blueprint and Growth Management. I question the legality of such a memorandum, which says the stormwater modeling effort for a current conditions model for the FAMU 3D pond as a starting point will require approval from the Environmental Variance Board and agreement to develop a Cascades model for permitting segment. This seems to be circumventing the Environmental Board approval. And you've already agreed to develop a brand new state-of-the-art stormwater model for Capital Cascade 1 through 3 and before that. And as part of this, to re-examine all of the infrastructure you've already built along the Capital Cascades Trail and update it before you permit segment 4, which is to the south. That is our opportunity to create a beautiful climate resilient stormwater model for the entire watershed. Right now, the permit 3DB with a 2020 model that has been updated since 2008. It's an 8-hour storm. If you're building in Bradfordville, it has to be a 24-hour storm. And if you look at the peer review, it still says that they have many recommendations that growth management was going to require up until yesterday And it says that this model underpredicts tailwater conditions without calibration data. The level of efficiency is ultimately unknown. Perhaps most importantly, the potential magnitude of design impact cannot be determined without more information. That means you still must permit this with Capital Cascades 4 together. Why are you trying to beat an old stormwater model to work when you've already agreed to develop a new one? This can have major unintended consequences.
You've got 30 seconds.
There are businesses, churches, homes, Capital Cascades 4. And now you have an Alberta project by the city threatens 80 homes. It's going to be a lot more expensive to move them out by following the federal standards. You have to stop and do this right. Major unintended consequences if you continue with the old stormwater model. Thank you.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Our next speaker.
Scott Hannes.
Hello. Hello, commissioners. This is Scott Hannes. I live at 50551 Quail Valley Road. I'm representing the Centerville Rural Community Association at the moment. I wish to comment on the progress and planning of the Blueprint Northeast Gateway project. Blueprint has contacted and held meetings with various groups in the area. However, it seems that citizens' comments and concerns are dismissed because they interfere with the one criteria the Blueprint is using for this PD&E. Any other considerations are considered to interfere with all the important deadlines and milestones of this project. Ms. Archibald has sent you all a letter outlining our specific concerns, and I fully endorse those and ask that you carefully consider them. However, Blueprint has repeatedly stated that the criteria for this roadway and intersection design is the maximum number of vehicles that can be routed from Thomasville Road through the intersection at Roberts. Any design change that does not maximize that number is dismissed as not viable. The criteria for these intersections, or this intersection, and the entire project should cover other community values as well. The historic nature of Centerville Road, the rural character of the area, etc. This is what the community input is for. There is a trade-off between the maximum number of cars and the rural character of Bradfordville, Centerville, and Roberts Roads. The design may have to accept a few less commuter cars being transferred through the rural area in exchange for the rural and historic character of the area. Costs for wildlife corridors and Bradfordville stormwater standards must be allocated, not just the cheapest, highest traffic solution. I ask that the directors give guidance to the project to consider community values other than the raw number of vehicles. Our other concern are the associated comprehensive plan changes for the UF future land use in the area that need to go forward at this time and not wait for this comprehensive plan change sometime in the indefinite future. These changes that we're asking can be a model and rolled into any future changes, such as Keep It Rural did with the rewrite of the rural future land use description. This is mostly a zoning type change and can be put in shape with help from county staff, not to overburden the planning staff working on the other parts of the comp plan change.
You have about
We hope
20
and
seconds
we plan
remaining.
and we think we can do it to have this ready as something for a normal comp plan cycle this fall as a proposal. At the moment, we envision changes to the UF to a new rural residential land use just in the Roberts Bradfordville Road, Centerville Road area. But look to this to be a template for adjusting other
You're at 3 minutes.
UF areas in the future. We need a commitment from senior staff to get this change ready for the fall.
Thank you, Mr. Hannes. Our next speaker, please.
Chuck Lang. And then Randy Dinker. But
Hey
I'm
guys,
not
thank
sure that
y'all. I don't know if there's a way to mute your microphone. There's feedback coming back on while we're talking.
Well, Mr. Lane,
But
we can hear you.
My name is Chuck Lang. I'm a lifelong resident of Tallahassee and Leon County. I'm the son of David and Mary Alma Lang, who just spoke. I live at Dupark Circle, 708 Dupark Circle here in Tallahassee. I'm here to comment on the proposed Northeast Gateway. First, my family and I love and are committed to this community. I shared a letter on behalf of my family that details some of the ways we've supported the community, including donating portions of our farm in the past. I'm commenting on the proposed Northeast Gateway because from everything we can see, all options under current consideration cut right through our family farm at the corner of Roberts Road and Centerville Road. And these put great burdens on my parents who live on the property, and no options that I've seen have the support of the people in the community that I've spoken with. You have three groups of people with vested interest in this gateway. First, you've got a large developer, Waylani, who wants to develop thousands of acres of property, and great for them, right? Second, our local government, who wants to move the traffic, rightly so. And third, an area community who wants to maintain a quality of life. That quality of life means maintaining as much as possible nature and wooded surroundings. Our family farm is exactly that, full of nature and a beautiful part of the community. There's also a conservation easement between our farm and the two neighboring schools that add to the community. The current plans only satisfy the large developer and the basic needs of our local government to move that traffic. They're far from reasonable or acceptable to us or the community that you've heard from. The good news is there really are easy solutions that will benefit all involved and at a lower cost. First is simply keep the road on the developer's property. Have it junction Roberts Road for a little further east from their property, satisfying all involved. Second, if they're dead set on coming in at the intersection there, have the developer keep the total amount of conservation property whole or greater by adding adjacent conservation property out of their property and putting as much as possible of the road on a portion of the current conservation property. The net effect is equal or greater conservation area and all parties being satisfied. We understand this may result in a small portion of our property being taken at the corner of Roberts and Centerville Road. We're still willing to be good neighbors as long as the property is kept to a minimum, that property loss. So in summary, guys, just thank you all. We appreciate you continuing this conversation and look forward to continuing that and working out something reasonable for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Next speaker, Randy Denker, had registered to speak, but I don't believe made connection, so I was just taking a second and don't see the name. So we'll move to, again, Max Epstein on item 7, which is approval of the Capitol Cascades Trail Segment 3 Skatable Art Design Plan.
Okay. Don't see him. Max, are you still there?
Yes, I'm.
Okay.
Oh, that's my dog. Sorry. 1001 San Luis Road. I wanted to talk about this project because if you look at it, it's a great project, but some of the design challenges, it says next to a stormwater pond and underneath high voltage wires. I think there might have been a better place to do this if you spent a little more time in the planning process. I think that needs to be looked at going forward. But I also wanted to mention again that for FAMUA in the 3dB pond, you've already used eminent domain twice for the pond. Once when it was across the railroad tracks, you bought up all the land, you pushed people out, and then you did it again. And we didn't even have an acceptable stormwater model that met minimum standards until November of 2020, 5 years later. You didn't even have the engineering to support such a project. And I keep saying this from the heart. Unless you actually develop this new model as you have agreed to already, and you've agreed to fix everything, why would you build a piece of infrastructure that you're agreeing to fix in the future? That's a waste of taxpayer dollars, and it will have unintended consequences on people downstream and upstream. So please, this is your opportunity to create something wonderful and beautiful for the entire St. Augustine branch, the entire central drainage ditch, which includes Frenchtown and Carter-Howell-Strong Park. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a climate resilient model and a state-of-the-art stormwater treatment facility like Sweetwater in Gainesville? And actually, the person who did the peer reviews, the people who constructed that, they should be doing the model. This is extremely important for you to take into consideration. Please do not move forward until the new 2021 stormwater model is developed and is applied. Otherwise, you're just going to waste money because you're going to have to fix it. And I don't understand how you can grant yourself an environmental variance either. So please, take a look at the peer reviews. When I came in 2019, 18 months ago, their model said it was going to create 2 feet flooding within the watershed. That's how bad it was. And you're still trying to use a very old, outdated model instead of use the model that you've already agreed to develop.
Mr. Epstein.
And the next thing is, you keep saying the trees, you cut them down, right? You're 400 debits in the hole.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Epstein.
Sure,
You're
thank
out
you.
of time.
What I was trying to say is that Mr. Epstein was also registered to speak on item 9. If he just wants to continue straight into that item 9, and that'll wrap up his comments.
Okay. Well, thank you. I thought I was going to be seeing these in order and the presentations and everything, but I'll continue to talk. This is about our neighborhoods. This is about tax dollars. This is about displacing people. You just heard someone from the Northeast Gateway that's going to have eminent domain. They're going to be taking family land. This isn't just a problem along FAMU Way. And I'm very glad that Blueprint is going to be following the federal standard when moving forward and displacing people. That's going to make it very expensive to buy and push people out of their homes. We have an affordable housing crisis. Break out some money from the OEV to help with this. But we need to be doing these projects in an equitable way that is fair to people and to the environment and to the laws and the procedures that we have put forward. Stop ignoring the people, wasting our money and hurting people. We have a homelessness problem, and you want to continue to push people out of their homes. You have the power to fix the cycle of poverty in Leon County. You have $1 billion. It's time to reevaluate and do it right. So please, I want to see Capital Cascades 4 that everything drains into to be the best thing in the entire country. I want us to be climate resilient and not affect our neighborhoods. I can't keep eating this, so thank you. Oh, I do have one more. Use OEV. Consider to buy N95 masks in bulk. 20 grand would help the bus drivers and assistants for the rest of the school year. I can email you back that later, but consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Our next speaker.
Madam Chair, Mary Alma Roberts-Lang had registered to speak, but I believe was able to make her comments here in person. But I'm just making sure she didn't have a second item. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Jeff Blair had registered, but again, I don't believe was able to make the connection, but just want to take 1 second to make sure we don't have Jeff Blair.
He's not on.
All right. The only remaining speaker is Lamont Nelson on unagended topics. Lamont Nelson.
Welcome, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, we're having trouble hearing you. Mr. Nelson? Okay.
We're able to see that you're connected, but not able to hear you at this time.
We're going to move on, and we'll come back at the end of the meeting. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That was our final speaker?
That was your final speaker. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will now move to our informational items and presentations. And I know that the CAC chair report and the EVLC chair report are written reports, but I would like to yield for Christina to make a special presentation, and then Mr. Pingree, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
Commissioners, we wanted to take this opportunity today to share with you what your OEV team is doing to promote Black businesses during Black History Month. So I'd like to ask Kiana if she could pull up our Capturing Champions videos. We have selected several of these that we're highlighting over the course of February. And then I know Katrina Tuckerson is here. She's done a remarkable job in partnering with Starbucks to recognize Black-owned businesses in and around their franchises here in Leon County. It's the only Starbucks in the nation that's doing that. So those are some key things I'd like to just highlight for you today on how we're working with our partners and promoting our businesses during this Black History Month.
My name is Gary Simmons, and I'm the owner and CEO of Data Set Ready. Data Set Ready is a technology company that specializes in cable network infrastructure. Tallahassee is my home. I went to the Navy for 9 years, and I landed back in Tallahassee, and I understood Tallahassee very well. I understood the needs of Tallahassee, and that's why I came back. Well, the OEV has been vital, especially in the early days. It helped me to increase my bonding capacity, which is also vital in that market. The certification program was absolutely vital in my company's growth and development. Without that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. It afforded me opportunities I otherwise would not have had. I know sometimes people say it's not needed, but it actually really did even the playing field. You know, we have grown up to 22 employees, and all with families, all giving back to this local economy, and it was absolutely vital to be where I'm at today.
Mr. Gary Simmons is also your representative on the EVLC, representing small businesses.
Thank you, Christina and staff. Mr. Pingree.
Yes, and appreciate it, Madam Chair and directors. I wanted to do this actually in the workshop, but I think in emails from the city manager and the county administrator, you may have seen note of this, but and with a big head nod to your leadership in policy and to her team that supports her, Director Paredes was named one of the top 50 economic developers in the United States of America recently. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And congratulations.
No, thank you. And thank you for recognizing that. I really want to thank you for your leadership and guidance. We've built so much over this past 5 years. You had an opportunity to see that in the workshop before. And like to thank our ecosystem partners. I say all the time in every presentation that economic development is a team sport, and I've got a great community to work with, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pingree, we
Yes,
have
thank
other
you.
presentations.
Yes, we have 2 presentations. We have one, I know, brief one, very focused, I think, in response to some of the questions we've been receiving. I'm going to turn to Director Calder for that, and then we have some distinguished guests here for a presentation from TCC as well.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Chair. We are in the 13th month of the 20-year Blueprint sales tax, and this IA board has adopted an advanced funding strategy that accelerates several of our large regional mobility projects while still advancing the placemaking and connectivity projects that Blueprint is known so well for. We have 15 projects in progress in our 5-year work plan, representing a $250 million investment in infrastructure. These projects are moving forward in their planning and design phases, and your Blueprint team has been out and about gathering community feedback. But for today's presentation, I want to focus on the projects that we will have in construction within the next 2 years. In 2021, 8 projects, all on the south side, will begin construction, and in 2022, we'll have 1 new project groundbreaking. Together, they represent an estimated $81 million construction value. These 9 projects will bring almost 9 miles of trails, 3.5 miles of vehicular capacity improvements, that means less congestion, and almost 160 acres of new park space. They provide improved access to our international airport, safer pedestrian and bicycle connections between neighborhoods and destinations, and new ways to play and live healthier lifestyles. I just want to focus on 3 of these projects today. Capitol Circle Southwest, the #1 Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency priority project, will go into construction this fall. This project will be led by and funded by the Florida Department of Transportation. The project segment for this first phase of construction goes from West Orange Avenue to Spring Hill Road. It is an excellent leveraging example of where we've been successful, where you've been successful, pulling in those outside resources to help extend our local sales tax dollars to invest even more into our local community. Market District Park, the first phase of the Blueprint Market District placemaking project. This park is programmed to go to construction in '22. This is that one that's funded for '22. The park will add to this already vibrant district and provide a new space for Tallahassee, Leon County families to play and exercise. And then lastly, I want to land on Capitol Cascades Trail Segment 3. There are 5 independent construction projects that are going to go into construction in 2021, representing a total investment of $9.3 million. All of these projects enhance the experience within this unique space between FAMU and FSU. And lastly, I just want to share our public engagement that we have upcoming. We actually have 5 public engagement sessions planned for the next 3 weeks on 5 separate projects. Starting with tomorrow, the Orange Meridian Park at the Greater Love Church on Orange Avenue near the intersection with Meridian. Next week, we have our outreach on the Northeast Gateway. This outreach will focus on those intersections, specifically that some of our speakers spoke to tonight. The week after, Bannerman Road, digital engagement focusing on the typical sections. Market District Park, this will be the last opportunity for an organized public engagement event before that concept is brought back to you on April 8th. And then we have our very first public engagement on the Lake Jackson Greenways project. That's going to be the week of March 8th. And that special project connects Lake Ella to the Lake Jackson Mounds Archaeological State Park. And that is it for me, Ben. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Director Calder. Madam Chair, the last, before we get to the consent and the pulled item from consent, the last presentation is from our colleagues and the leadership at TCC. You may be aware that a request letter was sent. Happy to provide this platform for them to present that. So without further ado, unless I'm getting this wrong, turn it over to Dr. Jim Murdoch, maybe to lead.
Welcome, Dr. Murdoch. And team.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Let me start by saying watching you in action makes me feel good as a citizen of Tallahassee and Leon County. I guess I should give my address. Is that something you would like? I live at 636 Summerbrook Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. So I'm a proud city and county resident here for many, many, many years. Our coming before you today here, I think most of you know that we have received the recognition as one of the top 10 colleges in America out of about 1,200. And so I hope you are as proud, frankly, as we are of our successes. Today, our ask of you is to consider investing $1 million of Blueprint money into the athletic infrastructure at Tallahassee Community College with the understanding, frankly, that we intend to match that $1 million with $1 million raised from private funds. We understand how precious the money is, but we would appreciate greatly your help. A little bit about why we're here before you. You know, I talk often about the fact that we're a great community college, but I also like to say we're a great community institution. As a community college, we have about 18,000 students at our institution. A lot of people are still surprised. I'm surprised they're still surprised. We're actually larger than Florida A&M University. We have a big footprint in this community, and more importantly, We contribute to the success of Florida State and Florida A&M by having 75% of our graduates leave us with an associate's degree and move on to Florida State and Florida A&M. President Thrasher and President Robinson have told me, and they would tell you, that much of their success in the national rankings is thanks to the quality of the students we provide to them. More importantly for our conversation today, we have 160,000 alumni. And as you probably know, one of the things that distinguishes a community college from a university is that so many of our students come to us from the community, graduate and stay in the community. And there's been no better evidence than what we just have gone through with COVID. TCC produces law enforcement officers, firefighters, respiratory therapists, radiology technicians, nurses. Those are what we called the frontline heroes recently. We produce those folks on all of our behalf, and they stay in our community. But I want to talk specifically about our athletics. And you may say, well, gosh, why do you want to talk about athletics then? It's because athletics, like some of the comments earlier, are about placemaking. They're about adding to the amenities of a community. And I'm not asking you today to consider investing in athletics for our students and our students only. I'm coming before you to ask to invest in that because we are a community institution. We are used by the community, more so than, for example, Florida State or Florida A&M University. Real proud of our success. We refer to our student athletes who come to us with an overall 96.2% success rate. And I want to go to our basketball in particular because I'm going to invite up Mr. Chris Edwards in a minute to continue this conversation with you. But we do so much outreach with our facilities, and candidly, you're going to see some photographs as to why an investment on your part to help us improve that infrastructure is an investment with a return that will provide to our community. We have a great success rate. You know that some of you know, we went to the Nationals and won Nationals women basketball a few years ago. Being a college in the shadow of Florida State University and the headlines that they get, we don't get the kind of treatment we might get. But I will tell you, we're very proud that not only do we provide that access for our students, but our students in and of themselves are important. They're important for you. They're important for me because they're representative of the diversity that we need in our community. Our college is about a third African American, about 11% Hispanic, 51% female. We represent the society that we are here. Those are the students we want to bring in. Those are the students we want to matriculate. Those are the students we want to have available to help other students see the possibilities of college. So again, I stand before you with this request. I'm going to invite Mr. Chris Edwards to come up, who is an alum of ours, to talk a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Chris Edwards. I live at 9711 Prestancia Way. I am the president of Mid-South Bank here in Tallahassee, the market president. I'm also on the TCC Foundation board. I got my start at TCC because I was allowed to go there and play baseball. From what I learned at TCC, what I was exposed to, I was able to go on to Mercer University, four-year school, continue to play baseball, continue my academic career. A lot of the guys that I played with and a lot of the athletes that were there when I was there, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to college had it not been for athletics. Family or financial reasons would have prohibited that. TCC was there for them and allowed them to go on to continue to, as a launching point, become doctors, lawyers, teachers. Athletics was very important to them. It helped their lives. It helped better their lives. A little bit of background, TCC's has had athletics for 30 years now. 30 years ago when we started our athletics, our facilities were fresh, new, and much of it was funded by legislative money, which isn't available at this time. Our original basketball, here's a picture of our basketball locker room right here, just to kind of go through some of the facilities. Our basketball arena that we have now was originally built for intramurals. It was not built for intercollegiate athletics. Our basketball locker room is, it functions now, but it's small. It's so small that not even all of our athletes currently have locker space. Some of the projects that we're looking at, I'll go over a little bit of that. We're looking to have a facelift to the arena, to put a new scoreboard in, to redo the lighting, make it more compatible with what you would see in other colleges. Our locker room, again, for the athletes, this is our basketball locker room here. This is the weight room that our basketball team, which by the way, last week was ranked number 2 in the country. This is the locker room that they're using. We're requesting funding to be able to renovate the locker room, renovate the weight room, get some new weights, paint, update the lighting, things of that nature, bring it up to current today's standards. Our softball field house. Our softball field house was built in the year 2000 and has not been updated since then. Many of the features in the softball field house, while it's a fantastic facility to be able to go inside and hit and work out, much of the field house has outlived its useful life. The carpeting, the painting, things of that nature. The funding that we're requesting portion of that would go to upgrade some of that. The softball, also, one of the projects we want to do is replace the stadium seating or create stadium seating at the softball facility. Currently, right now, we have metal bleachers. Create something that's a little more conducive, a little bit better for the folks that come out, our fans that come out and watch our softball team. Also, a softball scoreboard, a new scoreboard with sound system so that we can create a better experience for the players and for the fans that are there. This is the baseball field house, and I can tell you when I was there in 1993, we were one of the few colleges, not junior colleges, but colleges in the country that had an indoor hitting facility. We're very proud of this. Unfortunately, over the last 30 years, it's seen a lot of guys go through it, and it's, again, outlived its usefulness. We need to do some upgrading, the carpeting, the painting, the lockers. This is the locker room right now. My locker actually was like the 4th one in. It's still the same lockers 30 years later. A lot of this stuff just, it's worn out. Stadium seating for the baseball field, just like the softball field, we have a lot of the same types of requests for both of the facilities. A new scoreboard and sound system, again, to enhance the fan experience. When people come to Tallahassee and come to Tallahassee Community College to watch a game, or we host a tournament here, we want to be able to provide a great environment for the fans as well as for the players. The press box. Currently, we have what looks kind of like a Connex on top of the thing. It's functional, but what we're requesting and what we really need is a climate-controlled facility. It also, in a larger one, we stream our games live, and we need to have the facilities, or we're requesting the facilities to be able to live stream the games in a kind of a more comfortable manner for the press and also for any of the people, the game managers, the PA announcers, and things of that nature. So those are kind of some of the projects that we're looking at funding with, with the blueprint money, if available. So now I'll turn it over to Heather Mitchell.
Good afternoon. My name is Heather Mitchell. I live at 503 East 6th Avenue, and I am so appreciative of the fact that you're letting us come and speak to you today. I would like to note this is the first time ever that Tallahassee Community College has ever come to you all for a request of any kind of this nature. That's how important we think this is. So this project is going to equal, we think, to be about $2.5 million. We're just asking you all for $1 million of it. We'll raise private dollars for the rest of it, and we'll match your $1 million for dollar. We've already raised $500,000 of that, so we're pretty excited about the excitement that folks have in what we're doing. This is why. It's not just our athletes that use our facilities. These are just some of the organizations that have used our facilities just in the past 2 years. What's really cool about this is 2 things. One, we are the community's college, so people know that this is a place that they can come and use. That's not something that can happen at Florida State University or at FAMU on an easy level. It is in our institution. The second is, if you'll take a look at a couple of these, first of all, Pro Style Volleyball Club, and also Congressman Al Lawson's Capital City Classic. These bring local students onto a college campus, some that they never have had that opportunity to see that or to be in a collegiate atmosphere in an athletic facility. Y'all just saw what they get to see. That's not the foot that we want to put forward. Our current economic impact in Tallahassee is $2 million. That's including 8 sports. This past year in COVID, while it was happening, we did 98 home games, matches, and races, which I think is pretty amazing. I will say also that our athletics program, when we added cross-country and track and field, helped you all to bring 2 big tournaments to our community. Also bringing additional dollars that's not included in that $2 million estimate. This is where we think we can go. Just with these 4 tournaments we've been talking with Amanda at Visit Tallahassee Sports Council about, brings in another $3 million, but that's going to require us upgrading our facilities to make that happen. We cannot bring in 3-day tournaments with the facilities that we currently have. And these are the possibilities that we'd like to seek out, but ones that we can't at this time because our facilities simply won't handle it. There's some pretty awesome things on that list. There are lots of community colleges in the state, all 27 others of them, that can handle all of these types of events. Our facility is not one that has. We'd like for you to help us make that so.
So let me sum it up. You see the possibilities, but what I'll share with you is that under the hood, when those who were listed as possibilities, they get to choose where they're going to go. And they come and they look at our facilities. And many times they look at our facilities, they talk to us about other locations where they could possibly go. And in some cases, they choose those other locations simply because of our infrastructure. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Our request is for you to invest $1 million in what we do, not just for our college, but for our community. Given the fact that we will match that dollar for dollar, if not more, and with the understanding that this is an investment with a return that we intend to provide to our community. We know how precious every dollar is, which is why we chose to make our request reasonable and moderate, and why we chose to make sure that we would come forth with a match that we will provide for the money. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time. We would appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Commissioners, I'll entertain any questions for Mr. Murdoch and his team. I saw Commissioner Proctor first, and I saw Commissioner Richardson. Anybody else? Okay. Commissioner Proctor.
I want to say to Dr. Murdoch how delighted I am by the contributions made from your institution. One of the things that makes me very, very interested in your ask and supporting it is the fact that the title of your institution, it bears the name Tallahassee. People don't know exactly where Florida State, that could be, sometimes they get mixed up with being in Gainesville because it has the name Florida State, that could be Miami. People don't know where Florida A&M, I get asked that all, sometimes where's Florida A&M. But everybody know where Tallahassee Community College is, that's a Tallahassee. So your very name represents clearly this community. And among the 3 institutions here, there is none with a more concise identification with Tallahassee. The work that you've done, including a young man I love dearly, his name is Aaron Proctor. He graduates in May from Florida A&M, and he began at TCC and transitioned over. So I know full well the benefits of the bridge that it presents for many young people, and thank God TCC was there to whet his appetite and to find his footing. Commissioners, I think that for me, not to belabor the time, is just to say that I'm absolutely thrilled by what is a low request, and I mean, it's a high request, but relative to requests that we receive, is very modest. And I'd like to see us do all that we can to help Dr. Murdoch. And my ask is that we just go ahead and grow TCC to 25,000 and, just round it up to 25,000 real soon. And there's a lot of low-lying fruit that if we harvest a little more in this area, I think we could easily get, if you could accommodate, at least we can get to 25,000 students. They are all around the area. And those are my comments, Madam Chair. But I do support this request.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start out by making a motion that we approve the request by Tallahassee Community College. And Madam Chair, I in full disclosure, as a 2-time Florida State University graduate, I served almost 10 years, Heather, on the TCC Foundation Board of Directors and had the pleasure of being chairman for 1 year. And one of the things that I'm proud of that we accomplished during that year that I served as chair, we established a scholarship for Gaston County students, whereby any Gaston County student, public or private, that graduates from high school, they would get a scholarship, at least of 1 year. Has it been expanded to 2 years now, Heather? A 2-year scholarship to Tallahassee Community College. And that's just one instance of the kind of support that TCC and through its foundation has provided for our community. I think this is, as Commissioner Proctor said, a very modest request, particularly in light of what we've done to support our other post-secondary institutions in the community. The return on the investment over the years certainly will more than pay benefits for what we're giving. I had the opportunity that I've met with Dr. Murdoch and Heather about this, and we talked about return on investment through these tournaments that they've discussed. Had an opportunity to talk with Carrie Post with the Tourist Development Council, of course, and she supports this request because of the return on the investment through the potential for the tourism dollars that have been discussed. So again, Madam Chair, with that, I would move that we approve the $1 million request for the facility upgrades or to assist with the facility upgrades at Tallahassee Community College.
I'm going to recognize the vice chair.
Commissioner, as much as I'd like to approve it today, I'm not sure we can. I believe it has to come back as an agenda item with information for us to approve because it's not a set project already.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would second your motion to bring that agenda item back with all the necessary analysis for our consideration at a later meeting. If that's your motion.
I'm okay with that, Madam Chair. I just wanted the board to know where I would be coming from when the item does come back.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second
Yes, ma'am.
to bring back an agenda item to determine what our next steps would be to either move forward or not with the request. I also have seen Commissioner Welch.
Well, I have the floor real quick,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Ben, will you clarify exactly what will come back in that item so we know what information will be coming back and what decision will be made at the time the item comes back?
Sure. This would be very, pardon me, Madam Chair, Commissioners, this would be very similar to what occurred when you received a presentation from the FAMU president on Bragg, or for that matter, a prior request that came forward from, I believe, President Thrasher. What would come back, Commissioners, is a comprehensive analysis. We will analyze, we will work with President Murdoch and his team. We will identify any procedural steps legally that we would have to do to accommodate that, and we would look for funding opportunities within our structure as well, be they economic development or infrastructure, if applicable.
Okay. Is that it? Okay. Commissioner Welch?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My initial question was, I think it has to come back. And I will support the motion, Commissioner Richardson and Commissioner Maddox. I went to TCC. I don't know if anybody else here went to TCC. Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Dozier. I moved to Tallahassee 24 years ago as a wide-eyed young man from
Commissioner Jackson.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson, we'll come to you next.
No, he was just saying he went to TCC.
Oh, okay, you just, okay.
A fellow Eagle.
President
All
Murdoch,
right,
you were
thank
doing
you,
good.
thank you.
Jackson said something.
I can't have.
Hey, got to just shouting out if we're calling on graduates, class of 80-something.
Go Eagles, go Eagles.
80-something.
So I just wanted to say, that I think I'm a great example of the success that TCC can have in our community. I came here not knowing a single person 24 years ago, went to TCC, and now I'm a county commissioner. And I think that that is a real testament to the impact of the institution on the community. And so I'll support the motion made by my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Richardson.
Well, you know, the mayor is sitting over here saying, you know, he was born here in Tallahassee, wild-eyed, and with maybe little or no direction, and went to TCC, and look, he's now mayor. So, hey, TCC, you're performing miracles.
I'm not going to comment.
Anyone else want to weigh in? All right. So we have a motion to bring back an agenda item that will be, as being mentioned, to flesh out all the things that we need to know in order to know how to vote to move forward. Are we ready for the question? All in favor of the motion is on the floor. Let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's a delayed aye from the TCC
Correct.
graduate, okay? So by unanimous vote, we've approved an agenda item coming back to a next, would it be our next meeting?
That will be the goal, Madam Chair. We'll work
Okay,
hard to
and
see if we can get that done.
What's the date? Give the date to them of the next meeting so they'll know.
Help me.
It's April 8th.
April
Okay.
8th, thank you.
All right. Just so that Dr. Murdoch and his team will know what kind of time frame we're talking about, because they're feverishly raising money already.
Yes, we are.
They need to, know when we're going to come back. Thank you all so very, very much. I did not attend TCC, but I do know a lot of people who have. You all tried very hard with my sons. It's not your fault. But thank you for the work that you do in our community.
Well, if you'll
All right.
send him back, we'll try again.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you very much.
All right. All right, moving to our consent agenda.
Move consent.
It's been properly moved and second that we move our consent agenda,
Point of order, Madam Chair, is that
excluding the one that was moved.
Correct.
That was made by the mayor and seconded by Commissioner Dozier. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our agenda items, to our general business. Let's go to the consent agenda item that was moved. Is that correct? I'm getting the signal.
Yes, ma'am. It would
Okay.
be before we
All
get to
right.
general business back up, there you go. Consent item number 3, acceptance of the status update on Blueprint IA projects. I do recognize this was pulled by, I think, Commissioner Porter. We're happy to, as staff, identify or address anything that is within that item. As you recall, that's usually the catch-all item where we try and give updates on a series of projects. If it's the chair and Commissioner Porter's pleasure, we can address, I think there were 2 issues in particular that speakers had comment on. One was the Northeast Gateway and the ongoing PD&E. The other was Pond 3DB and its preparation for construction. But I'll just say that to say we're here to answer questions. We're happy to do so, and I'll defer
Okay.
back to you, Madam Chair.
I recognize Commissioner Porter, since she's the one who asked that the agenda item be moved, be pulled. You want to address what your issues were?
Sure. I don't know if Mr. Tedder is here. He indicated to me perhaps that he had an update on the pond item.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Commissioner Porter, Madam Chair, if it's acceptable, just, and I want to sort of frame this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Director Calder to walk through. I know that there's been there were some public comments given, there were some written comments submitted, I think there were some emails in relationship to Pond 3DB, its current status, permitting, et cetera. We do have an update, as Assistant City Manager Tedder had indicated. I would also, and that might logically be the starting point, I also would like to just sort of highlight, and I think Director Calder will address this, and acknowledge that we are now, I'd say, past the midpoint, but we're still well within the PD&E process for the Northeast Gateway. This has come before you at different times, and commissioners sort of use a visual. That project, as is how it occurs in a PD&E process, it sort of started wide. And you may remember there were different discussions of where the alignment generally would go. And I'm failing to remember the specific date that the IA gave the direction that it would generally go to that northern terminus of where the 5 points was. But that guidance was given. And so what we're working on now, and again, this is going to come back to you through the PD&E process before it's completely done, with some operational alignment opportunities. But we're really now focusing in just on that northern boundary and how can we, with the most environmentally responsible manner possible, being as respectful as we can to the good citizens and property owners and the various constituencies, achieve the goals of the gateway. That is really where we're at now in the PD&E study. I do want to give you the confidence that as we start, and we have started, but we start in earnest the community outreach, a draft will be coming back to you in April to allow you to lean in and give your comments based on what you've heard and the full report that we give. And then we'll take that and we'll continue to refine that PD&E so that we do have the lightest footprint, if you will, for the lightest cost, if you will, for the maximum benefit. And that's the goal of the PD&E. So, but we can talk about that. I know Autumn has some comments, but Autumn, why don't we start with the pond and the update that you have?
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Let's see, we have the agenda materials that provided an update on the Cascades Trail Segment 3D pond, which is that regional stormwater facility on the western end. And we call that system the St. Augustine Branch. And that's right at the point before the St. Augustine Branch, which used to be that open ditch system, merges with the central drainage ditch, which is more of a north-south stormwater conveyance. But there has been a major update since that agenda material was provided last week, which is that we've received the City of Tallahassee environmental management permit on the project. So we're happy to report that to you today and provide that update. But that essentially means that all of the rules have been met at the City of Tallahassee level. So that's good news. The Capital Cascades project has been implemented in phases over many years, starting with the Franklin Boulevard project, which was opened, I think, in 2013. And this system has many layers of stormwater planning and engineering. And in fact, many of you will probably remember that Cascades Park is a stormwater facility disguised as a world-class park, right? So stormwater is a big part and a big focus for us. So since your approval to move forward with this project, there's been several key approvals over the last 5 years, but probably the one that was most recent was the September 2019 approval to move forward. We have built an entirely new stormwater model for the St. Augustine branch, and that stormwater model uses the latest stormwater modeling software available. It's also been peer reviewed by Jones Edmonds, and Jones Edmonds is a leader in stormwater modeling in the state of Florida and in the Southeast. And that stormwater model was signed and sealed by both the engineer of record at Kimley Horn and Associates for the Cascades Trail and also by the peer review, independent peer review by Jones Edmonds. So that is important to note because that stormwater model, that new stormwater model for the St. Augustine branch is what we based the design and of course was attached to the permit application, which was just approved by the city. Let's see, so once we've also got, there's a second permit that we're working on, and that's a permit from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And we submitted in, I think, early December of last year. They submitted 30 days later, actually 45 days later, a series of comments. All of those comments have been responded to, and we've received word from DEP that they were responded to satisfactorily. We have not yet received the actual permit yet for them, but we do anticipate that occurring any day. And when we do receive that permit, then we will be ready to construct the pond. That's the last thing that we'll need in order to initiate the contractor to do that. What I will do is send an email to the director of place, who'll then notify the city manager and the county administrator of our anticipation to start that construction. And that's the update on that project.
Okay, Commissioner Porter, did that resolve your issue?
Yeah, if I could just ask a few questions.
Okay.
Okay, so will there be two different stormwater models then that we use for the two projects?
Yes, yes. There have been multiple stormwater models that have been developed for Cascades Trail, starting back with Franklin Boulevard. We will be developing for the next phase of Cascades Trail, which is the final phase of Cascades Trail Segment 4, a pre-Cascades model. And what that model is it's actually looking at the conditions of the entire St. Augustine branch before anything like Franklin Boulevard or Cascades Park were constructed. If you will, I think of it as kind of a closeout model so that we can look at the entire Cascades Trail system as a whole, just make sure and see the improvements that were made as a part of every segment of Cascades Trail, how they improved the system as a whole before even the construction began for Cascades Trail as a whole. So we will be developing a pre-Cascades condition model for Segment 4.
Okay, and I guess I'm just confused. So if there are two models, is the impression that I'm getting is one model more updated than the other? Or does that make sense? Because I read some of the documents that were sent to me about, you know, some of the concerns from the city and DEP, and whether or not, you know, and some of the comments made today about if we have, whether the technologies are better or more updated than the other, or simply different.
I guess it's just a matter of a different baseline condition. The model that we're using for Cascades Trail Segment 3 is looking at the improvements that have been made to date as the starting point. So it looks at what's going on with the stormwater as a result of the improvements that have already been made, like Franklin Boulevard and Cascades Park and Lake Anita. So making sure that we build Cascades Trail Segment 3D pond to handle the water that's coming through today, based on the improvements that we've already made. And that's really important because we need to know exactly what we're dealing with when the water comes into Segment 3, what speed, what volume. The pre-Cascades model is really just looking at a different point in time, which is that before any of those improvements were made.
Okay. And is the new storm water model that was mentioned in today's email from Mr. Tedder the model that Blueprint will be required to develop according to the memo that was attached, the January 20th, 2020 memo?
Yes, because the Cascades Trail, all of the segments of Cascades Trail are going to be looked at in totality with Segment 4. So we will be developing that new model for Segment 4.
Okay, and do we have any concerns about the legality of a bilateral agreement, you know, in lieu of an environmental variance?
No, we don't. We had discussions recently with our attorney at Lewis, Longman, and Walker, and no concerns were raised at all.
Okay, thank you.
You good? Okay. Sherry, you got another question?
Madam Chair, no, thank you. I'm fine.
Okay, I was talking to Commissioner Porter.
Oh,
But I'm coming.
Last time I thought you were looking at me.
Okay.
I guess I'm just wondering, I understand the pre-Cascades, and is there a benefit for constructing both projects with the same improved resilient stormwater model is that something we've considered, and if not, why not?
Okay, good. It's a good question. I thought about that yesterday as well. Is there any benefit to delaying? And my answer to that is no, there's no benefit in delaying because the water is coming through the St. Augustine branch and going through the Segment 3D pond before it goes into Cascades Trail Segment 4. So that water is doing what it's doing. So the improvements that we make in Segment 4 are not going to impact what that water is doing now in Segment 3. So it makes sense to move forward with Segment 3D pond now because we can go ahead and make those improvements and remove those nutrients from the St. Augustine branch before they go into the central drainage ditch, which make the work, then make it, how do I say this? It makes the improvements that we make in Segment 4 that much more efficient because we're taking out those nitrogen and phosphorus here up at Segment 3D before it gets into Segment 4.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Minor, you say you're no longer?
Madam Chair, no longer. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good line of questions. Thank you, Commissioner Porter. I'm sure we've all received some emails on this. We've heard Mr. Epstein's comments. So, Autumn, a lot of what you provided helps give some clarity here. I think what really stood out to me in these emails that we've received and seeing the DEP comments and then the letter of agreement was, and particularly for DEP, just raising some concerns about how we were modeling things. I mean, that was significant to me. So the fact that you have addressed those comments, I mean, we know how that permitting process goes. That is, and they have indicated that they've accepted that. Your response to those comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And part of that was the agreement that we just mentioned. Is that part of those comments that went back and what they, what made them feel better about? I'm not using my words correctly here. You don't really feel better about a permit, but led to the approval.
If I understand your question correctly, my response, and let me know if I don't get this right, and I'll look to Dan to make sure I'm saying it correctly, but the DEP is looking at just that facility alone as a standalone facility, so they're not interested in the future projects or the past projects.
I've read through a lot of those things, so thank you for that. I think that is significant, that the looking at the preconditions, that was from City Environmental.
That's correct.
Okay. We've got stormwater questions every day. It's raining again. We're getting a lot of rain. For the county, we're going to see some agenda items coming back, and I really look forward to working with the city on stormwater, on, I thought there might have been a fly or something. And a new idea that we're waiting for an agenda item on a watershed management plan. I mean, this is an ongoing issue for our communities. So I think these questions about really pushing our models forward and making sure that each pond, we are using the best technology, the best studies, and really making sure that we're not going to have to go back and clean something up in the future, which is really what Cascades has been about. It is cleaning up mistakes that were made in infrastructure and flooding and other things that were associated with how we block the natural waterways, right? So before moving forward with 4, and if I remember correctly from the item, you're in procurement for design, is that right? Or am I mixing that up with 3?
No, that is correct. We've
Okay.
been through the selection process. Mhm.
Okay. So I think, we're really going to need to look closely at that. But any other improvements, I mean, Alberta, whatever it might be, I know that may be a city project versus blueprint. I think we need to come back to this, and I would like to have a better understanding of how these new studies, the precondition, and other things inform us moving forward. So I think it was a good line of questions. And I guess the last thing, if there is any update that Mr. Tedder, that you could provide once DEP, issues a permit, whatever that might be, I'd like to hear directly from you all based on, some of the information we're getting from others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing too that we're really excited about, one of the first tasks coming out of that segment 4 design is going to be a white paper on innovative technologies and treatment systems to really maximize what we can do with that segment 4 pond.
That's great. And related, not related, I can't help this because you did pull the item. One little phrase about a green roof for the restrooms at the Skatable Art facility. I'm pretty sure that I'm the only one who's worked on a green roof for a private sector building. That was before I joined the commission, and it's the building next door to Mad Dog Construction. On Miccosukee, you might have seen the green roof there with the cactus and everything else. Learning about the benefits of the green roof for heat island effect, sustainability, capturing water, I was really excited to see this. And there have been cities, Atlanta comes to mind, Chicago, others, that have really made an emphasis on green roofs to drop the temperature, particularly in the urban area of your city, and to capture more stormwater and filter that stormwater, because otherwise you've got a lot of contaminants rolling off your roof straight into the city stormwater system. into our stormwater ponds. So I just want to use that example to say thank you for including that. And if that is something that we could think about on other blueprint projects or city-county projects, it may be something interesting to explore. So, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question here. The widening of Spring Hill Road, Southwest Capitol Circle Southwest project, over on page 9 of 17. This thing is called the Capitol Circle Southwest, and it has Crawfordville Road to Orange Avenue. The staff presentation in previous slides indicated that this would go from Spring Hill Road to Orange Avenue. The document that we have on page 9 of 17 in blue writing says this is a Crawfordville Road to Orange Avenue project, and that the right-of-way acquisition and all of that, then construction, an amount of $58 million. That was the same $58 million that we saw earlier that was projected on the screen. But the flip side of, on page 10 of 17 has a little footnote there, and it says Crawfordville Road to Spring Hill Road, and the right-of-way, an amount of $15 million. And then there's a little oops, in the construction not funded, moved out of the FDOT 5-year work program. And the comments of the FDOT, COVID impacts and gas tax and rental car fees and toll collections and so forth. So this is a misnomer, and somehow from Crawfordville over to Spring Hill is being omitted in the widening, even though by name we have the Capitol Circle Southwest. That thing is supposed to start from Crawfordville all the way back over to Orange Avenue, but the fine print is saying, commissioners, that that won't be the case. I think it would be tremendously bizarre that we are flowing 3 lanes of traffic from Capitol Circle Northeast, coming past Southwood, coming past the State Office Park, coming past Woodville Highway, and we get to Crawfordville Road there at Publix, and we go and revert to a single lane. The same thing would hold true if we were coming from Capitol Circle Southwest, coming from Orange Avenue, coming from Bluntstown Highway, all the way around to past the airport, and then we come there for a single file lane. That's just crazy. Clearly, it's not division. It's not what's actually featured here. And I think that we need to make sure that this project does not become disjointed simply because of its location on the south side. I think that it's going to create great travel incontinuity, frustration. You can just see the accidents going to occur between Spring Hill and Crawfordville Road. And I think that I'm panicking to believe that to do that and to not find the construction dollars. And what's interesting to me is that the construction dollars says $58,269,000, and it has Crawfordville Road to Orange Avenue. So being a staff or whoever can tell me, attorney, why is Crawfordville Road to Orange Avenue the heading, and we've got $58 million as though Crawfordville stretch to Spring Hill Road is on the wagon? I'm misled by the caption, the money listed, and then the footnote. Can these numbers be reconciled?
Madam Chairman,
Please.
Commissioner, thank you very much. Yeah, this is something that your staff, and I have to say it's your blueprint staff, it's your county staff, it's your city staff, it's your CRTPA staff, and the district staff at DOT have been watching very closely. So both there are two segments there in Capitol Circle Southwest. One is from Orange down to Spring Hill. The other is from Spring Hill over to Crawfordville. And they've been following and tracking each other in the state's 5-year work plan. The one that's ahead of the curve is the one that's right in front of the airport. So that's on target. That's what we showed earlier today. That's going to construction. The other segment is a little bit behind, and we've been monitoring this. We have regular meetings, so does CRTPA, with the district office staff as they navigate their budget pressures to make sure not only is the design work being funded, not only is the right-of-way being funded, but the construction's being funded. If I'm not mistaken, correct me, Autumn, what happened, and it happened right around the time of the agenda material being published, is the state took an advanced look at the impacts of sales tax revenue loss, and it fell off of the 5th year. What I can tell you is we are all in unison in seeking to complete that last link in the chain. And I believe the district office is right there with us. In fact, I know they are. And it's something that we're not going to remove our focus upon, sir. We know it's the entirety, both segments, not just the first one, but both constitute your number one project at Blueprint. And so until that number one project is done, we won't let the foot off the gas.
Okay, well, Commissioner, Madam Chair, I'm very, very glad to hear what Ms. Pingree has just shared with us, because to have this Crawfordville Road to Orange Avenue as a part of the Capitol Circle Southwest, and to state that the funding for construction is there, and this is in black and white in my hand, and then I get tripped up when I flip the page, and it's like, no, it ain't. I don't like stuff like that kind of mismatch, hodgepodge, but that staff knows that that whole segment is to be done. We need the construction of it simultaneously, if we can. We certainly do. Okay,
And
thank you.
if staff could just make that clear in our documents going forward. Commissioner Matlow, you want to be recognized?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Going back to the 3D pond permit, I just wanted to walk through the memorandum and make sure I have a complete understanding of where we are and how we got here. So just reading through the memorandum, it seems we submitted a permit for the 3D pond permit and then growth management since we only had a current conditions model and not a pre-cascades model. In order for approval, we would need to go before the Environmental Variance Board and then do a pre-cascades model before we got to segment 4. Is that correct?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, if I follow you.
And then what was the variance if we went forward with that permit outside of this memorandum, what would the variance be for?
Let's see, we do have Karen Drummondville. I think that is probably more of a growth management question. And she's on the line. She might be the right person to answer that.
Karen, can you hear?
Yes.
Did you hear the question?
Yes, Commissioners. I did hear it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The variance would only be needed if Blueprint was not going to meet the condition, but they fully intend to prepare the pre-cascade model as part of segment 4, so a variance is not needed because we will be meeting the code.
Thank you, Karen. Okay. So following up on the memorandum, because that's what lays out the agreement that Karen's referring to, where we will meet the condition. Part 1 of the memorandum, Blueprint will direct a consultant to go get the pre-cascades model. We all recognize we need that. We needed that if we went for the variance or if we didn't. The second part, and this is where I just have concern for the process and being informed about this beforehand and not being brought to us by citizens, is that Blueprint on Cascades 4 project will commit to evaluating and recommending modifications to the existing and future Capitol Cascades facility, subject to IA board approval. And I guess my question there is, it sounds like as we move forward, we're going to have to, those modifications would have some sort of financial or fiscal impact when we get to that time period before we get to Section 4. Is that correct?
Well, with the pre-cascades, I'm sorry to back up a little bit, but the pre-cascades model will tell us exactly what the conditions were in that area before any of the improvements were made on Cascades Trail. And by developing that model, we will determine how the Cascades Segment 4 project improvements, well, how do I say this more completely, but we'll make sure that all of the improvements that were made to date, plus the improvements that will be made in Cascades Trail Segment 4, will improve the conditions that were there beforehand. We need that pre-Cascades model to ensure that that takes place.
Right, okay, so I guess what I'm just not following is how we got here. How did we get to Section 3 and Section 4, not knowing where we were beforehand? And then secondly, I mean, it seems like even though this is subject to IA board approval per policy, when we get to that time and place, we're gonna have to spend that money to continue forward. So I guess my concern is just not having that information up front so we know where we're going, because it seems like this is driving a future budget decision. And that's where my concern, when we come in and make these decisions, and it seems like if we're going to skip a variance conversation and go for a memorandum to make a deal, essentially, that we're going to do this, we're going to correct this, as we go along, so we don't need to ask for a variance. I don't think that's, I think we can do that. I think that makes sense. It just seems like it's forcing the decision of this board. So at that point, I think if we get into this situation again, we should come back to the board first before we move forward with it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Okay, I'll come back to you, Commissioner Porter. Commissioner Richardson?
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the line of questioning here today, but I read the material. I read the email that Wayne prepared, because that email came to me, and I passed it on to the city manager and staff to have them respond, and I read the response, and I was comfortable with the response that was given. I have no question that staff has given considerable thought and study to this issue and have come to us with recommendations that I don't think would put us in a difficult situation. I think if that Autumn, I guess I just refer to you, Autumn, would have come to us with what all of the issues or potential issues are before this recommendation was made. And, the questions that came to me only came from one individual, and I just want to express that I have full faith and confidence in the 6 years that I've been on this commission and worked with our staff, that they have been forthright, they have been professional, they've been knowledgeable and experienced. And I don't want anyone to question the motive of staff and what they have brought before us, because I just don't think that would be the case with the staff that I've had the opportunity to work with over the last 6 years. But I appreciate the line of questioning, and certainly if, those are concerns that commissioners have, then certainly everybody has the right to ask those questions. But from my perspective, I have full faith and confidence in our staff.
I'm coming to Commissioner Porter, but I want to say this. We are on a pool consent item, and it is taking an extraordinary amount of time. I implore my colleagues to please get your questions answered prior to coming here so that we can deal with the business that we need to deal with and get out of this room. I say that. I'm going to come back to you, Commissioner Porter, get your questions answered. I, too, have faith in staff. They know a whole lot more about stormwater and permits than I do, for sure. So I'm, until someone shows me that they don't, I'm supporting them. So please ask your questions. We need to move this agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asking a question does not mean that I don't have faith in our staff. It means that I take seriously understanding these issues that are very complicated for me to understand, quite frankly, because I also do not have an expertise in stormwater management. And I also feel like there wasn't just one person who expressed concerns and raised questions. I need to have full confidence in the way that I vote. And how we use our time at these meetings and how I use my time during my briefings is my concern, and it's important that we put in the time to address questions when we have them. I only have one final question, and thank you for explaining this to me, because I certainly do not have this technical expertise, which is why I feel so adamantly that I want to learn it so that I really know what it is that I'm doing and that I can differentiate between different perspectives on these very complicated issues. So is this item asking for authorization for further action, or is this just an update and we're going to get?
According to the options that are listed in the agenda item, this is to accept the February status report. That's why it was on the consent
I
agenda.
understand.
Yeah, that question comes to me because it's regarding the agenda. So that's what this item 3, the options are, they're in the recommended action, is to accept the February 2021 status update on blueprint infrastructure projects.
Okay, I wasn't finished asking my question. My question was related to, we don't know yet if we will get the permit from DEP. So will that come back to us with an update depending on that status?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll bring that back to you at your next meeting with our status report, right?
Madam Chair, if I could, I want to be sure I'm on the same page. My understanding is that if your question is in regards to what is the status of us getting the DEP, there's 2 permits that were required, right? First one was city, second one is state. When we have those 2, we have already mobilized and are prepared to begin work once we have those permits in hand. My understanding is that now we have the city one in hand, the state is imminent. We've heard verbally that they're intending to give it. Once that happens, we're moving forward with the project. I just want to be very clear, in accordance with standing IA board direction. Will we give you an update at the next meeting? Yes, absolutely. Will that update be, hey, we've been holding on to these permits and we haven't done anything? No, ma'am. That's not what will happen. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Okay, I've been trying to, well, let's move on this item. I'll entertain a motion to accept this.
Madam Chair, I move staff's recommendation for the information-only status update.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded by a lot of folk that we accept the report. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I've been trying to avoid instituting the 3-minute rule, but I'll entertain a motion on that as well.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that we institute the 3-minute rule for speaking.
Madam Chair.
Other than staff, all in
Madam
discussion?
Chair, discussion, please. Thank you. The 3-minute rule at the county, we've had it for a few meetings now. We do have a provision to take a vote to add comments. I want to get out of here soon, like you. We've been here for a long time, but my perspective is we've taken more time taking those second votes than we have saved. So I think if we all commit to just trying to keep our comments short, that might be good.
I've been giving y'all that chance, and it's not working.
Well,
so we don't have to, we can do it in 3, you can just do it in 3 minutes. We don't have to institute a second vote to give you more time. Let's just do it.
I encourage
All in favor?
everyone. Ma'am, I wasn't.
Comment?
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it's so moved.
How do we?
Okay, let's move to the next agenda item, item number 6.
I'm sorry, what was the vote count?
Point of order, Madam Chair. If we can do a roll call vote on the 3-minute rule.
Madam
that
Chair,
would
can I
help us
comment
because-
before we vote?
Okay.
To do that.
Okay, Commissioner Matlow, I'll come to you after the vote because the vote was already in process. Is it pertinent to the vote?
It's directly related to the vote.
Okay, please, Commissioner Matlow, quickly.
I'll make it under 3 minutes. 2 points. 1 point is our boards are under sunshine, so if we have any concern with any issue we see an agenda item, I can't call Commissioner Porter, I cannot call Commissioner Dozier and see if they express concern also. So the only way, if we wanted to take an item in a different direction, is through this board meeting publicly and deciding that we want to collectively move forward. I recognize that didn't happen on the agenda item that we just had, but there are cases where we discuss things publicly and we go in a different direction than what's recommended. So I just hesitate to say we shouldn't have conversations about things that concern us. As for the three-minute rule, I've watched the county meetings. I don't really know how you guys do it. It seems bizarre, and it seems to slow things down. If that's what we want to do here, I never speak for more than 3 minutes, so I'm going to vote against it. But I try to stay brief and concise, but I do think we shouldn't try to limit conversation that could lead to action.
I'm not trying to limit conversation. I'm trying to limit the conversation that should have happened before this meeting during your briefing, or if you received information just before you walked into the meeting, that's one thing. I'm just trying to move a meeting, move our agenda. Most of us have, we're getting our questions answered. I don't want to. This is not a debate. We have a vote, a motion, and a second on the floor. We're ready to do a roll call vote.
Madam Chair, I have a clarifying question on how this is going to operate, because we have had a few meetings at the county on this, and this is kind of the point, is we spend so much time on these procedural
we're spending a lot of time talking about how we're going to do this.
We do.
I'm ready
Right.
to call. I'm calling the question.
Madam
Y'all ready
Chair.
for the vote?
Madam Chair,
Are you ready for the vote?
there are specific reasons. Does staff answer the question?
Commissioner Dozier, you have not been recognized. We are going to do a roll call vote, and we're going to move forward. It's taking too much time to do this.
It has, you're right.
Because I'm trying to move an agenda. So, a roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Matlow,
No.
Commissioner Porter,
No.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes?
Chair Williams Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor,
Yes.
Commissioner Welsh.
No.
Tally it up, but it passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to our next agenda item, item number 6. Mr. Pingree.
Sorry, yes, thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. We have 4 items on general business. I'll try to address these expeditiously, but I will say, I think some really positive activities and outcomes. Item number 6 is a great example of this. Commissioners, this has come before you a number of times, both in your budget process and in policy meetings. This is to help create an incubator to help stimulate some of the great economic development outcomes we discussed earlier in the workshop. This is being done in partnership with the university, with LCRDA, with federal government. I'm going quickly through it, but really what this item does is it leads to the approval of the legally required document. It's a memorandum of understanding to provide the confidence and the legal protection to this body before you strike those $2.5 million checks over the next 2 years. Special thanks, please, to Attorney Dawson for her work, Director Paredes and her team for their work, and also to our great partners, not just to the federal government, but at Innovation Park and the LCRDA. Recommending option is approval, option number 1.
I'll recognize the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that my good friend Kristen Dozier will join me on this. We represent our respective bodies on the Research and Development Authority. We have worked really hard on this. Very proud. And I'll allow Kristen to make the motion, and I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So moved, option 1.
All right, the motion is properly made and
Thank you.
second.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Commissioner Dozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a remarkable step forward for our community. We have talked about that a lot. At the last Innovation Park Board meeting, the mayor and I had an opportunity, along with the rest of the board, to hear a presentation from ROI. That was Mr. Stephen Jast. Is that right? I got it right there. Okay, thank you. To think about how this facility will play into some of our other initiatives, entrepreneurial, of course, but also in recruitment. And I think it would be really amazing for this board to hear a similar presentation it fits some of these pieces together. Businesses are attracted to communities that have this kind of pipeline for entrepreneurs. The other thing I'd just say, the Innovation Park Board has been working on this for years. As you well know, we are moving lightning fast. We have selected our architect and engineering team. Lewis and Whitlock, you may have seen in the paper, was awarded that contract. They put together a great team that does include some out-of-town folks, but I'm really proud that one of our local architects was successful in this bid. They are getting started. We are due to break ground in March of '22 and projected opening by September of '23, and that is remarkable. Christina, for you and your team, phenomenal partners for Innovation Park, so thank you very much for all the work. I know the MOU, everything. Susan, you did a lot of work on this as well. Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very quick. You know, it doesn't sound like we're going to spend a lot of time on this agenda item, but this is a really big deal, and just wanted to acknowledge that. This is a very, very outstanding use of our dollars on this. So I want to thank OEV, want to thank Innovation Park, and also want to thank Commissioner Dozier for her years of involvement in this. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Are we ready for the question? All in favor of the motion on the floor? Do we require a roll call vote for this one, Madam Attorney? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Okay. All in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's a delayed aye. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Next item is item number 7. This is approval of Capital Cascades Trail Segment 3 Skatable Art Design Plan. Commissioners, as I covered in your briefings, this also is very exciting. This is part of a design build project. Pull up the one that has the run on it. Just really quickly, I wanted to focus in, keep going, forward, that. Okay, so just the bottom line, Commissioners, as you may recall, as I think I shared in your briefings, we've been working with members of the skate community for some years now to build a really world-class, best-in-class facility. This is design build. We need your authorization on the design plans. I will tell you, we worked within numerous constraints. We have created what is going to be one of the longest continuous runs, which means a lot to skaters, maybe not this guy, but in the Southeast United States. It is absolutely going to be iconic. We do anticipate it's going to stimulate substantial Instagram traffic as well as commercial traffic for the businesses around it. And we're excited to begin with your approval of this recommended design plan with the construction of this facility.
All right. Mr. Mayor.
Madam Chair, I'd be pleased to move staff recommendation option number 1 on this. Couple of comments. Commend staff for the creative design and working with the skate community. Love how the FAMU Rattler ties in, both in an artistic manner, but also with the university. Love how you took a nuisance at Cascades Park with the War Memorial to inspire a skatable design at both ends of the park. Job well done. The only thing I would suggest is as we go in, and this is at the very end, and we plant the trees and shrubs around it, go out to our current skate park and take a look at some of the vegetation that we have, because they drop the little berries onto the skate park, which gets trapped in the wheels and could be a hazard. So let's be very careful with what kind of vegetation we plant around it to make sure it doesn't become a barrier for those that are skating. I move option number 1.
Okay.
Second.
It has been properly moved and moved by the mayor, seconded by our first vice chair, second. Word for discussion. Commissioner Porter being recognized, followed by Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you. I'm also excited to see this move forward. I just have one question. Is there going to be seating anywhere?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. There's seat walls, and then there's an entrance area where there's going to be like a shade structure.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I just wanted to make the comment, I know that Elizabeth Emanuel and KCCI are working together on some of their anti-graffiti, with the art on the box, and that might be a great opportunity to work with them and to work with local artists on some of those efforts, perhaps. Thank you.
Commissioner Matlow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Pingree, just for clarification, you said you were gonna be the first person to skate the snake, and we could all put it on Instagram?
I think that's what I heard too. I thought that's what I heard.
Only if I'm in a safety bubble with roller skates.
We will make that happen for you, sir. I was able to participate in one of the charrettes for this with Team Payne and Autumn online, and it was just a great environment to hear the feedback and everybody working together. So just well done on this project. Looking forward to have it brought to our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Dozier.
Madam Chair, just quickly to piggyback here, I agree with everything that's been said. I love the Instagrammable, whether it's you or not, Ben. And Mr. Mayor, you're right. I mean, the Rattler design, everything, this is going to be significant. It did stand out to me that Orly from Phase 1, I'm forgetting Orly's last name right now, but I shared this during my briefing. I remember him in the early 90s as part of the young, the crew that was going out skating around town. And to recognize, Ms. Mayor, I think you were kind of hinting at this or not hinting at it, but you directly referenced the Korean War Memorial and what was happening there and kind of move into another place. But to reflect back on how much of a nuisance skateboarding has been seen in past decades, and to bring it forward and say, no, this is something that we're going to celebrate. It's a good part of our community. That is significant. I think we're doing that in a lot of ways down the Cascades Trail with a lot of different pieces of this. So I appreciate all the citizens who've gotten involved in this and really giving people a place to be accepted. That is hugely important. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Proctor. I'm sorry, Commissioner Proctor, I saw Commissioner Welch first.
Okay.
And then I'll come to Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner Proctor, I'll be very brief. I just want to say, from somebody who was a firmly mediocre skateboarder as a teenager, I think this is cool. I think you all are to be commended for coming up with such a neat idea. And I think hashtag skate the snake is going to take off, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, that's your new nickname? Commissioner Proctor.
Madam Chair, I asked Mr. Pingree, was there an age cap on, skating and whatnot? And, today Dr. Dre is 56 years of age, and at what point do you stop being a teenage idol? And how old is it that you give up a skateboard? And the skate community has a lot of, 40-some-year-old children in there, and I'm just pondering about, those things. And so I can get an answer on it, but the spirit of skaters is quite youthful, is the point I'm making. So, amen.
Well,
Madam Chair, all I'm saying is if Commissioner Proctor gets on a skateboard, I'll definitely be there.
Yeah, with Instagram loaded, ready.
Trust and believe.
Mr. Pingree, we do have skate at your own risk signs up. We'll have them around there somewhere, right? Because when 46, 56-year-olds are skating out there and things happen, we want to make sure that they knew when they boarded that skateboard out there that it was at their own risk.
We will have appropriate signage, and I will have double the signs for myself.
And make sure we got some cameras too, because if it's Commissioner Proctor out there or Commissioner Welch, I want footage. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Are we ready for the question? All in favor of the motion on the floor? Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Okay, 2 items to go.
I was waiting for Commissioner Jackson to come in late. I think we might have heard him. Okay.
Okay, two items left, Commissioners. Item number 8, you may recall at the last meeting, head nod to Commissioner Welch, brought up there would be likely an issue forthcoming at the county, which did occur. At that time, the county pursued moving forward with the sale of 100 acres that they had dedicated and own presently, dedicated for the Northeast Park, and the purchase of 50 acres adjacent to the Northeast Gateway. That purchase is contingent upon certain action by this board, most specifically, changing the project description. As is outlined in your agenda materials, we're seeking your guidance on two matters. One is authorizing the change, which requires a substantial modification. It's a very direct process. We've done that before. We anticipate that that would be done in time for your April meeting. The second item has to do with funding. Currently, this item is scheduled to be funded in 2035. Staff's recommendation is to move it up into the bonding cycle for 2022. If you move forward with that, we will bring you back an analysis, a full analysis, at your budget workshop. Substantially, those are the only two topics that are addressed in this item. Not addressed are things that can come later on, as is covered in your agenda materials, such as what would go at the park. We have plenty of time for that, and management of the park upon its construction. Again, items germane to this topic, but not potentially for this conversation. So we're here to answer any questions. We have a presentation if you'd like that, but those are the two recommended options, Madam Chair.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Commissioner Proctor. As I believe, as far as maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he was advocating for us both to move fairgrounds as well as the Northeast Park into our bonding, and here we are sitting here today. It'd be my pleasure, Madam Chair, to second the leader from District 4 and his efforts in the Northeast Park to get us right here where we are today and moving the Northeast Park to 2022, that is, Ben?
I'm sorry, 2022. Yes, it's options 1 and 2, sir.
I'll second Commissioner Welch's option 1 and 2, whatever he makes it. Thank you,
Madam
Madam
Chair, may I?
Commissioner Welch, you've been
Thank
called
you.
out.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And before I do that, I just want to say thank you to Ben and the Blueprint staff, the city staff and the county staff for getting us to this point. I recognize that I am the beneficiary of some good timing and some excellent analysis by staff on what is a much-needed park project in the Northeast. As you guys know, at our last meeting, at the last county commission meeting, we approved the sale of the former property and the purchase of the new property. And with your support, this will allow for a much expedited potential construction of that park in a new location, a better location, serving more people at potential cost savings because of the synergy created with the Northeast Gateway project. So I would move options 1 and 2 and appreciate my colleagues on the county and certainly my colleagues on Blueprint's support. Thank you.
It has been properly motioned and second. We can now have discussion. If there is any further discussion. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do need to ask a clarifying question outside of the 3 minutes because it's about the 3-minute rule of our council. Is that acceptable?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. This is the question I was trying to ask before because it's good for us to know where we stand on the rules. We want to follow them. Staff time at the county in response to questions, this has been difficult to track. Does that count against the 3 minutes?
We said last meeting that it did not.
I'm just clarifying for this one since it's a new rule for each meeting.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Did it need to be part of the motion or anything like that? I'm just clarifying.
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
It didn't need to be part of the motion. I thought it was part of the motion last time. That's what I was trying to ask before when the motion was.
It was not a part of the motion last time. It was a point of clarification during discussion last time. I remember it. So please proceed with your question.
Okay. So I think I've said this at the county, and not to put Commissioner Welch on the spot, but probably the fastest accomplishment of your top goal after an election. And I appreciate you saying, I mean, you worked hard and focused on this, but I appreciate you saying that it has been a lot of work by a lot of staff, Tall Timbers, others, to kind of bring this into fruition. Obviously, I think there is a benefit. I actually voted against purchasing the property in 2012, I was a sole vote against it, thinking that it was probably too far out. So I'm really excited about this move, and we need to change the project scope, or the project, scope, the location, in order to activate the sale and all those other things. I have no problem with that. My issue is that with the vote today, based on what you just said, Ben, and what's in the item, we will get a better understanding of the bond and the funding and everything like that when we get to our budget. Is that right? That's what you said?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
But it will have already been approved once we move through that public hearing, or the 2 public hearings. And that could be before budget?
Well, the option number 2 that's on the screen is direct blueprint. I think that's the staff, to bring back through the annual budget workshop, the full funding, through the planned bond issuance. So I think the thorough analysis would occur there.
Okay.
If that's helpful.
I think that's helpful, and this is why I'm saying this. We have identified 27 incredible needs for our community. In the discussion in the Sales Tax Committee, both bodies approved it before the referendum in 2014. And it is not surprising at all that constituents come to us to push for advancing those projects. Thank God we can bond them, and we have that ability because we're assured some sales tax revenue in the future. But to have advanced 15 of 27 projects in the next 5 years and bonding a good number of them, this is an incredible effort by our staff. Even the procurements have a lot of staff time associated with them. And I think we all celebrate Blueprint's quality. That's a standard that has not changed since, Blueprint 2000. I'd argue it's even gotten better over the years. But I think there is a ceiling to what we can layer on our staff, and I want to be cognizant of that. We're always thinking about city, county staff, and state workers and everyone else, and I just wanted to bring that out. But more concerning to me is what the impact is on other projects on the list. The park is good. I think we've got to lock up the property. But construction, if we are looking at that versus alternative sewer, if we're looking at that versus the animal shelter, if one project drops off the list because we are bonding so many projects, we need to do that with a full understanding of the opportunity cost to advancing all these projects. And it may be, a little troubling to have to say this at the last one in, number 16. So it's not specifically about Northeast Park. I'd say this about any other project that we would advance at this time. And so when we get to that budget discussion, I just hope we can have a very frank and in-depth discussion about the long-term impacts. Now, if we step up our job creation and we get a lot more jobs, we might see sales tax increase over the years, and maybe we can accomplish those. I mean, there's some unknowns here. But I've already received one email. I'm sure you all will get emails about the animal shelter. That's been a tremendous need for a long time, and it is at the end of the list, and I'm fearful it's going to drop off, but it may also impact others. So, Ben, if we could just kind of lean into that question. I know you will, but help us see the implications of advanced funding, and if there were any options, if it's going to negatively impact animal shelter or one of the others, what other options do we have?
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner Porter.
I'm sorry, Ben, were you going to, I thought Ben was gonna
You're
answer.
beyond your 3 minutes. I was letting you finish your thought.
Right, I thought staff could answer that, Madam Chair.
Well.
Quick answer, yes, we will be prepared to cover that at the workshop. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Porter.
I'm also excited for this and happy to support the motion. I agree I share some of the concerns that Commissioner Dozier mentioned about the impact on other projects and whether those stakeholders have been informed or engaged at all, and whether we've thought that through. And I think in the future, I'd be more comfortable if this were something that we perhaps give the public more opportunity to speak on when we make these changes, but I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cummings?
Yes, Madam Chairperson. I just would like to also applaud staff for the expeditious nature that this item has been brought back to the commission. I recognize that there are other issues as raised by Commissioner Dozier that we will have to address when a full report and analysis is brought back. But I share Commissioners Welch's concern and sentiment about the lack of park and recreation areas in the northeast section. And so to the extent that we as a commission can address that, I appreciate the opportunity and just thank staff for recognizing that it is a priority, and then we'll address if there are any other projects that will have to, that will be adversely affected. And if so, based on the analysis that staff will bring back to us, I think we can make an educated decisions once we have all the information before us. Thank you.
Thank you.
One point.
Vice Chair.
Ben, when you speak to pitting the motion passing, the planning and of what will actually go in the park, as well as who will operate the park, will likely be done at the county level, not here, correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. So once the process, before we even get there, we still have steps to undertake for both options 1 and 2. Option 1, 2 required public hearings. The second and final will be at your next regular meeting, and we'll be focused on that initially. Option 2, your May meeting, the meeting that immediately thereafter. We'll do the deep dive, as been discussed by Commissioners Porter and Dozier and others, and bring that information back. And then, as we move forward towards bonding the project, we will begin in earnest the planning and design work for the project in accordance with its description. That would include what amenities would be there, public outreach, et cetera. And as part of that, I think it's reasonable to anticipate that the discussion of, okay, who would manage it thereafter. So we do have time for that during the course of the next 2 years.
That will be done here?
I beg your pardon?
That will be done here, during these meetings, on a blueprint.
It would, I'll tell you, what goes in the park absolutely would be done, and the other probably would be. If not, it would be at the city and county commissions respectively.
Thanks, sir.
Commissioner Welch?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real briefly, thank you. I appreciate you guys' concern and totally understand. And I do want to make the point of thanking Tall Timbers, and Neil Fleckenstein is here, and he and Tall Timbers and the owners of Horseshoe Plantation were very crucial in us getting to this point, which was a good piece of public policy to relocate the park to an area where there are more people, and it's just going to serve more people. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Anybody going to thank Commissioner Proctor? Because Commissioner Proctor, weren't you the one that was pushing this?
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor.
Mr. Welch, I'm so old up here, I can't remember that far back.
You're recognized, Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What is a supermajority of this council, and why does the second meeting require a supermajority vote? And like Commissioner Porter, I'm wanting to be informed about those mechanics.
I can address that, Madam Chair. Under our bylaws, in order to make a change to the project descriptions, it requires a supermajority vote of both members who are city commissioners and county commissioners. So that's 5 on the county side and 4 on the city side that's needed.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Also known as the weighted vote.
The supermajority 5-4 vote is the only exception to weighted voting under the bylaws.
Okay.
So that is strictly 5 and 4.
All right. And that's our moment in parliamentary procedure. All right. Anyone else want to make comment? All right. It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Commissioners, your last item of the general business is item number 9. And this is consideration of informational meetings. Really, it does two things, though, and I think I was able to cover this effectively in all of your briefings. The first thing it does is would seek to amend your agenda policy so that similar to how you operate in your county commission respectively and your city commission respectively, you would have a section on every Blueprint IA agenda, regular meeting, for the sharing of ideas and commissioner discussion. It's really a good opportunity for any new concepts or any new ideas or anything an individual director, to use the proper term, on the IA board would want to bring up. So that's the first component. The second one really is targeted at making these meetings more efficient with the side effect of having more public engagement. And that is, since normally your Blueprint meetings are on a Thursday, to schedule time on a Monday. It would be staff-led, the proposed meetings. They would be held in accordance with sunshine and noticed. But these are not, we're not seeking to create additional meetings for you per se. It's not mandatory for the IA board to attend, certainly and absolutely encouraged for that to occur. But this would be staff-led, all virtual, cognizant of COVID, not seeking to gather folks together. And it wouldn't cover every single item on the agenda, but it would be the big items and give us the opportunity to do a deep dive so that we could be a little bit more expeditious in this session. We're happy to discuss it further. That's the presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pingree.
Motion for staff recommendation, item
Second.
1 and 2.
I'll second comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Ben, I've received a couple questions about whether this prevents us from moving to a structure where we separate the OEV portion from the infrastructure portion. I just want you to speak to that clearly, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, Mr. Vice Chair, no, it does not prohibit that conversation nor action.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a lot of questions about this item before briefing, and I want to appreciate Ben, Christina, and Autumn for really spending some time walking through this. And I think it is important to note that wasn't in the item that they're virtual. Did you say that a moment ago? Yeah, I may have missed that. Okay. And that it doesn't replace all presentations that we would receive on our Thursday board meeting, but just as you said, in an attempt to keep the meeting shorter and give the public particularly more time to hear those presentations. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, and very briefly, great example I think I used in a number of briefings. You may remember at the last meeting, we had a really lengthy in presentations. We had a consultant come in, talk about Market District and ideation of that park, and it was timely, it was relevant, it was important, but it was also very lengthy. And so that would be at that length, or maybe even a little deeper even. That would be the kind of a presentation that would go at the informational meeting. We still would present it if it was an action item in the regular meeting, but we could be a little bit more concise in this forum. And public would be available to participate in either.
Okay. So one thought I had since the briefing, those Monday meetings will be optional for us. So to make sure that we are all fully informed on the same page when we get into our Thursday meeting, I was wondering if there is a presentation. Our briefings may come before the Monday night meeting. Could you include the presentation material in our agendas in some way, or even as a supplement on that Monday, in case we can't go to the meeting, so that we can kind of see the rough outline if it is more robust than our Thursday presentation?
Madam Chair, absolutely. Our intention, and we can figure out the vehicle to do it. It could be an add-on or supplemental under consent. It could be just in the presentations or distribution. But the bottom line is, yes, we would convey that material to the IA board members.
Okay, great. Well, I can support the item, and I love the idea of the discussion time because we do toss out a lot of different items throughout the meeting. So, Madam Chair, if I might, after we take this vote, since we don't have discussion, if we can come back and talk about the issue that Commissioner Maddox brought up in the OEV and Blueprint infrastructure meetings. It's a separate issue than this item, so I wanted to let it move forward.
Okay. Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At first, I was actually excited. I thought this was a good idea. And thinking about it a little bit more, I'm not going to support this item. The reason for that is I would like to hear a little bit more of what the public comment is on this item. I share concerns about if there's no action taken and it's kind of optional attendance, what disparities there may be between information that board members have. And I'd also be more in favor of exploring separating OEV from blueprint discussion. I think I also just want to make a point about, if this is a concern about COVID, that makes a lot more sense to me. If it's a concern about the time we spend, this stuff is time consuming, and it deserves, and the public deserves our time and attention to these issues. I also think that, what the public wants, from what I hear and what I cared about when I was just a member of the public, and what I care about now, is not just more meetings, and not even just more opportunities to speak, but for commissioners and my representatives to actually listen to us and listen to them. And I've seen before overwhelming opposition to items by the public, and we listen and we listen, and we don't take action in support of public sentiment, and it's out of step with the public sentiment. So I would like to see there not being the same equation of just more meetings equals better public say and really how decisions are being made. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting this.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, I want to rescind my second, but give the mayor an opportunity to find another second.
I'll second it.
All right. Madam Chair, I make a substitute motion for option number 2 and direct staff to bring back an agenda item looking at separating the OEV and infrastructure meetings into 2 separate meetings.
Second.
Okay. Substitute motion has been properly moved and second. Commissioner Proctor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no question that the motion on the table is a compelling thought, that separation. We are guided amazingly by a CAC group, Citizen Advisory. This body has a board of directors chaired by Mr. Evans. We have a functioning staff that has another set of training wheels on our bicycle. And this seems to create a third distinct component to guide, chide, tell us what to do. I feel sufficiently informed by our board of directors that tell elected officials what to do, and our board of advisors that advise us. And I'm so old now to come into an additional meeting, and I don't want to seem improper and out of order. It's just that veteran commissioners have seen it, we've heard it, we know it. The mayor has heard everything on this at least 12 times in this career. So I'm just not that empathetic to the ask, but I'm very much supportive of the motion that's on the floor.
Okay. Commissioner Matlow, and then Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and wholeheartedly support that motion, Commissioner Maddox. I think we do need to dive in and engage on these issues. I think the informational sessions are a good idea in spirit, but I want to respect all of our time. I want to respect our staff's time. We send them out to do 13 different charrettes, and they really do communicate with the public. The issues we have are when the public feels like the decision won't be modified, and really doing an informational item 3 days before a day when we're going to vote. Nothing's going to change in that time period, so I don't want to give the illusion that we're giving an opportunity to change things, because that's what meeting with your elected officials here is for. I do think if we wanted to pre-record some presentations and put them on social media and that sort of thing, so the public can be informed of the items beforehand, so they come to these meetings informed, I would wholeheartedly support that. But just for time, we have a lot of staff. They're doing so much work, and I really do appreciate this item being brought. But I don't think it really achieves the goal that we're looking for. So thank you.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. Clarifying for the maker of the substitute motion first, did you say option 2 and the meeting split, or was it just splitting the meetings?
Option 2 and splitting the meeting.
Okay. We like the discussion time. I think that'll keep us streamlined as well. Well, first, I got to say I'm glad I brought this up in December. Commissioner Maddox, you brought it up at our retreat so that folks have had a chance to think about this. I've been doing some outreach and had incredible feedback from members of our EVLC, from other members of the public. So I was prepared to make a case for this. And I will say that part of it is these questions from the public. I'm sure y'all are hearing it too. And Commissioner Maddox, you actually mentioned this at the FAMU Credit Union event. A comment from former Commissioner Lightsey just saying the public really wants to know what we're doing on economic development. We all want to know. We're starting to spend money. And it is striking how many times we don't have time to hear the amazing update from OEV because infrastructure is so heavy and so time-consuming with citizens, with others. So I think the goal to shorten the meetings actually is addressed by this meeting split. So it's public information, transparency, but pulling OEV out into a separate meeting, we've talked about this, I've talked about this with Christina, it may not be that long of a meeting, but it will give us a chance to hear directly from our partners, from business community, from others, and navigate those issues. And it could be a short meeting, and this meeting is shorter. The last thing that I really think is important, and again, I wasn't sure, and I don't know if the substitute motion will be approved. I'm very hopeful it will. But as we embark on a new strategic plan, the first 5 years, our staff has done a remarkable job setting up OEV. And a lot of the data and a lot of the structures, the site selection, other things that we need to guide us. But we're starting to spend money now. And I think it is more critical now than ever that we have that separate economic development conversation, like I mentioned, the ROI presentation, so that we can address some of those questions we raised during the strategic planning. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts that I've been hearing and what generated this suggestion in December, but I'm thrilled by the comments that I've already heard. Back to the informational meetings. Like I said, I had some concerns about that. They were addressed. Wanted to make sure we were still all on the same page on that Thursday, but given the substitute motion, I think the idea of maybe having virtual presentations that people could download or look at, there may be other ways to do that, accomplish the same goals. So I just didn't want to dismiss those goals, but if we have other ideas, perhaps they could come back in the same agenda item if it passes.
Well, let me just, thank you, Christian. Let me just say that I was in favor of the additional informational meetings if it was going to make this meeting more efficient. Because you have that discussion, kind of like what the school board does. They have agenda development meetings before they have school board meetings. And so they have those discussions and all of that before. So when you get here, it's decision time. Here's citizens, decision time. We do what we need to do because the discussion and all of that has already, getting explanations, getting your questions answered, deep diving, that's happening outside of this room so that when we get here, not to say that you can't ask questions, but it won't be, a long list of questions. It'll just be some clarifying because you've already gotten the information that you need. So I was definitely in favor of doing the informational meeting. I don't have any problems with the separation. I too I am concerned about having, now we're talking about doing an OEV, splitting OEV out from infrastructure, and you're doing that meeting at the same time, and not having an OEV meeting over here on this day and having an infrastructure meeting on this day, or having a 2-hour meeting to deal with. Listen, I love my job, but let's remember, it's a part-time job at the city, so they say. It's paid part-time for sure, but it's a full-time job. I don't mind doing whatever it is that we need to do to get the job done, but if it's gonna add to all of this extra time. I know it's optional to come, but who would want to miss an opportunity to get better clarification? I get my clarification in my briefings. I ask the questions I need to ask in briefing. But for those who have additional questions, I thought this would be a good solution to get those questions answered so you don't have to ask them here. So whatever the will of the body is where I am. But I wanted to just say that I'm not opposed, but if it's not something that you want, then we can vote it up or down. But I am not in favor of creating 2 more additional meetings, one for OEV, one for infrastructure, and then we got Blueprint, we got CRA, we got City Commission, I'm on like 3-4 committees. I'm just saying, if we don't need these additional informational meetings because folks don't want them, then let's don't do it. But if you need them, let's do it. That's kind of where I am. And Commissioner Minor and then Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Okay, and Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I read this agenda item, I was actually looking forward to this. I was very much in favor of the informational meetings. Actually looked at my calendar for most of the dates, and I already started to figure out how I was going to block out that time. I look at the informational meetings as like an extended briefing where we all get a chance to be together in that briefing and ask questions together, as well as the public, to be able to kind of sit down and talk this stuff through, which I found really interesting. I want to do that. But I wanted, if we end up moving forward on the informational meetings, and at this point it's kind of in flux in terms of what the will of the board is going to be. What I don't want the informational meetings to be is cannibalizing some of the discussion we have at the actual Blueprint meeting. I think that could be detrimental. Not everyone will attend these informational meetings, and the folks that do not, I think, will be at a disadvantage when they come to the Blueprint meeting itself, if we have a significantly streamlined discussion of Blueprint agenda items at the official meeting. So that's one concern I had. I do like Commissioner Maddox's substitute motion. I think it's a way to kind of achieve that greater efficiency, splitting OEV and infrastructure into 2 different meetings, and then the discussion section. I think that probably accomplishes what we all want in terms of efficiency. And so I'm inclined to support the substitute motion. So, and we'll see what the will of the board is. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. I support Commissioner Maddox's substitute motion, but one of the things I was thinking of, just thinking outside of the box, I don't know if we could frame the situation where we could try it, and if after having several meetings, it doesn't work, or we don't find that it's profitable, we could revert back to what we have now. So I think if we adopt a situation where it's not permanent, it's not etched in stone, and we could even probably set forth a time frame, and after that time frame, I think we could all weigh in and make a determination on whether to go forward in that vein, as opposed to adopting a situation and we find that it's not beneficial, but yet we're stuck with it. So I think we have a way out, thinking outside of the box.
Right.
But I like Commissioner Maddox.
Okay, Commissioner.
I would accept the amendment or ask that staff bring back as a part of the options that we have a 1-year review as an option, 1-year review of how the meetings are actually going split. If we move in that direction, just make it one of the options. I'll accept that. Thank you.
Let me do this because I'm losing control. Let me let Commissioner Richardson speak, and then we'll come back because you were the maker of the substitute, and then you can amend it because we might want to hear what he has to say as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was prepared. I, too, like everybody else, was excited about the informational meetings, but now this substitute motion has put a whole different light for me, and I'm retired, so I've got time, but I don't want to spend all my time in meeting after meeting, because I meet with constituents as well as all the meetings that we are required to attend. And, I mean, I can understand separating out the infrastructure and OEV. I think it's a good time to begin that process. But to add another informational meeting, I think it's confusing to the public. I really do. And so I think that I'm prepared to support Commissioner Maddox's motion, but now to add something else to that, I just think it's adding more, and it's going to require more staff time as well, because remember, staff has to prepare for all of these meetings. And I just think it's going to be confusing to the public what all these meetings are and what we're going to accomplish. Is action going to be taken at the informational meetings or not? And so I think we should just go with the substitute motion. That's my opinion, and that's what I would be prepared to support.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I got a,
Call the question. I think we're all in favor of the substitute.
okay,
I'm
I thought I
sorry.
seen your hand and want to say something.
Call the question.
If I could just clarify the motion.
yeah, we need to clarify the motion, and we haven't had a vote on calling the question. Can we just clarify the motion and move to vote?
Clarify the motion, please.
The motion is for option number 2, for staff to draft an amendment to the, for staff to, option number 2. With staff also bringing back an agenda item separating the OEV meetings from the infrastructure meetings, and for the options included to include a 1-year review, if approved, of how we're doing with those meetings. That is my motion.
Madam Chair, I have clarifying, and it'll be quick. Commissioner Maddox, and this was something that was referenced, I think, in your questions, Madam Chair. We have run into challenges when we have 2 meetings in the same day, and they bump right up against each other. It also puts us in the room for a much longer time. That's a COVID consideration. So you didn't clarify that, but are you asking for in the agenda item 2 different meetings on 2 different days?
Certainly, 2 different meetings,
Okay.
2 different days.
I was just curious about that, because I think that gets to some of the other goals, and then we could talk about info meetings in the future if we wanted to. Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, just to clarify on this point, I'm clear on everything in this item, but I just want to clarify. About a year ago, you went from 4 meetings a year to 6. So I'm interpreting it 2 different meetings on 2 different dates, 3 blueprint, 3 OEV. Am I seeing that correct?
Just bring back an item.
I'm sorry.
Whether,
This is
bring back an item
significant.
that gives us options. I fully expect us to have a conversation about whether we want to add meetings or don't add meetings during that item, but I don't want to get into the weeds while we sit here to ask for an item to come back as to how many meetings we're going to actually have. So bring back an item that splits the meetings and gives us options as to where we want to do 6 or we want to do 12. I don't want to get into that discussion right now.
Who was your second? Who was the second on that motion?
I believe Commissioner Matt Lowell.
Matt Lowe?
Yeah, I
I'll
was,
second.
and I accept that.
Okay, all right, we want to make sure we're still holding. Okay, all in favor of the substitute motion is on the floor. Signify, we need a roll call. for that, no, we need a roll call for that one, yeah. Thank you, Angela.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Dozier,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Welsh,
Yes.
Mayor Daley,
Yes.
Commissioner Matlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Chair Williams Cox,
Yes,
unanimous.
so it's unanimous. Bring back an item, and we'll go from there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That concludes general business. The last issue on your agenda, Madam Chair, is before adjournment, is citizens to be heard on non-agenda items. If there are any speakers to the clerk.
Madam Chair, I do not have any other speakers at this time.
Not even the one, we couldn't hear him.
Let me, well, I would, thank you. Lamont Nelson was the individual earlier who we could not get a connection with. I don't,
Is he still there? Yeah, he's still there.
Lamont Nelson, you have 3 minutes if you're connected and ready to speak.
Madam Chair, I have a
Hello,
question for-
yes, no, I don't have any questions. I was only listening to the meeting.
Oh,
Sorry, I apologize for any confusion.
okay.
Not a problem, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have
Okay.
a quick question for Ben. I had this at the end here. I should have asked it during project updates because we had a couple letters about the FSU Convention Center and the status of the MOU. Ben, you said you were going to bring us back an update in April. Based on our direction last February, we had authorized staff to sign that MOU when it was finished. Given the cost change that we're only 6 weeks away from that meeting,
You have a verbal commitment, no,
I just wanted to clarify that.
You have a verbal commitment that the IMC is not going to be authorizing any MOU. We will be bringing back a comprehensive item at your April meeting.
I just wanted, you said on Monday we would likely have that, and I wanted to clarify that. Just in circumstances of change, it seems like we need to have that conversation. Thank you.
All right. With no further business before this board, we're in adjournment.